Conference of Catholic Bishops, and we are the General Secretariat management who have come to represent the bishops. I will go straight to the issues. The first one being outstanding constitutional issues. We were able to come up with specific issues under the same outstanding issues, and under Article 43 of the Constitution, on the issue of the cost of living and related issues, these are the issues raised by KCCB. The first one is high standard of health, and here are our concerns. We are still not very comfortable with the way the Article 43 and Article 26(4) of the Constitution have been framed, and KCCB is of the view that it still promotes the issue of reproductive health rights in terms of abortions, and those two articles somehow are disguised to promote abortion. The second issue that we have is the cost of health is very high. The cost of healthcare is very high. There's lack of health facilities in some areas. There's inadequate equipment in health facilities. There's a lot of jurisdictional conflict between the national and county government health sectors, and especially the hospitals. We have issues with the frequent strikes by the medical personnel. There's the conflict of interest by the medical personnel, especially the public officers who are allowed to open their private clinics, and they tend to concentrate more on the private clinics that they operate more than the public hospitals. Then there's still the issue of corruption, and the stealing of drugs and equipment has also been reported. These are the proposals on how to deal with the high standard of health. The first one is to amend Article 43(1)(a) and Article 26(4) to outlaw abortion. We need it to be very clear from the articles of the Constitution that abortion is outlawed in Kenya. We will also request that there should be a relooking at the national insurance model to make it affordable for the poor. We also request that we amend Article 186 and the fourth schedule to provide that the functions of the level 4, 5, and 6 hospitals to be assigned to the national government. In that way, we'll ensure that there is a proper administration of the hospitals, and the other levels should go to the county government. We're also requesting that we amend the government or the members of parliament amend the Health Act to restrain the public officers from opening and running their private clinics. Our second issue is the non-denial of emergency medical treatment. We agree that it's a noble thing for the patients to be treated when there's an emergency. However, we have an issue with the fact that sometimes these patients are unable to pay the medical bills after they are treated, and we therefore request that the NHIF Act and any other health acts are amended to have an emergency fund to cater for any emergency issues from patients who have emergency issues, so that the patients do not suffer and the hospitals do not suffer in the end of it all. On the issue of accessible and adequate housing and reasonable standards of sanitation, these are the concerns from KCCB. The government housing programs have failed in the past. Number 2, the government should only concentrate on creating an enabling environment and developing good policies. And we therefore recommend that the Finance Act should be amended to remove the housing tax levy, because there is a possibility that it will not perform well as envisioned from the previous history that we have. Another concern that we had was freedom from hunger and adequate food of accessible quality. And these are our issues from KCCB. There is no Food Security Act that is being implemented. There is a lot of food that goes to waste due to inadequate storage facilities and lack of accessible markets. For example, what is happening in Trans Nzoia County right now with the issue of maize and their storage. Then we have dishonest people who have been interfering with the safety of food and risking the health of the people. These are our proposals. We request that we enact the Food Security Act and implement measures that will promote food production in Kenya. We also request that measures should be taken to promote agricultural production, and the farmers should be given more priority when it comes to giving out food and buying of food by the government. We also request that the government puts in place measures to prevent interference with food safety, and they develop a program to provide food to the people who cannot afford. There's also an issue with the adequate, clean, and safe water, and the main concerns are the drying up of rivers, the pollution of rivers, inadequate dams, irregular water supplies, and contaminated water. We request that the Environmental Management and Coordination Act should be enforced to ensure that the water is protected. We also request that some measures should be put in place to clean up the rivers, and more dams should be built, especially in areas that are flooding, so that when we have floods, you can be able to store the water and it can be used later on during the dry areas. We also request for an improved water supply system. The issue of social security, we have had reports of corruption in the social security schemes, and there is also delays in the release of retirees' pension. These are our proposals: streamline the social security schemes, stop the corruption in the retirement benefit schemes, ensure timely release of pension to the retirees. And on the issue of provision of appropriate social security to persons who are unable to support themselves and their dependents, these are the concerns. We have had allegations of corruption in the cash transfer program. There are also many people who are qualified, yet they are left out from the scheme. They do not benefit from it. And there's also the delay of the release of the cash transfer of the funds to the people. We request for the following: investigate and stop any corruption in the cash transfer system. The government should ensure that anyone who qualifies for it and is eligible is enrolled for the same. There should be timely release of cash, and there should be a relooking into the system to ensure that only those who are needy benefit from it, and those who are able to take care of themselves, they should be allowed to do it without interfering with the money that is meant for the needy. There's the issue of education. There is confusion in the system. There is inadequate education facilities. There is inadequate funding. There's lack of transparency, in the university financial model, and there is lack of jobs. At the moment, we know there is some money from HELP, but who qualifies and how the same is done is not very clear to the public. We request for the following: streamlining the education system, building the adequate education facilities, improving transparency in the university education financial model, especially the HELP system, develop policies that will create jobs for the graduates. Then there was a specific issue concerning the implementation of the 2/3 gender rule, and these are our concerns from KCCB: delays in the implementation of the gender principle in Parliament, failure to respect the principle in government appointments. And we propose the following: amend Articles 97 and 98 to reduce the size of Parliament so that the cost of burden can be reduced from the general public. We also request that we use the forthcoming elimination of electoral units to reduce the size of Parliament so that the number can reduce, and in the end of it all, the burden that is transferred to the public is reduced. Governance issues, including promoting national unity and inclusivity in public appointments. These are our issues. Perceived exclusion of people from the opposition areas in appointments and development. There is also an issue in discrimination of opposition areas in the allocation of funds for development and infrastructure. There's also an issue in promotion of ethnicity in politics. These are our proposals. Enforce the outlawing of discrimination in terms of appointments, development, and allocation of funds. We also request that there should be equity. The government should ensure that there is equity in the allocation of funds and projects from all over the country. It doesn't matter whether you're in the opposition side or in the government side. We also request for promotion of collaboration between the government and the opposition for peaceful coexistence. The other specific issue we had was adequate checks and balances, and these are the concerns from KCCB: weakening of the opposition through defections, weakening of the constitutional commissions through underfunding and interference with their mandate, breach of the principle of separation of powers.
Yeah, can I suggest that
Yes.
since we have the memorandum, she skips the column on concerns and just goes to proposals.
So that I can go straight to the proposals?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. So on the adequate checks and balances, these are our proposals. Amend the Political Parties Act to discourage poaching of opposition members, represent and respect and adequately fund the constitutional commissions, the arms of the government to operate independently as per the Constitution. On the specific issue of restructuring and reconstitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commissions, these are our proposals. Tighten Article 250 of the Constitution to provide for a fair and transparent election and appointment process of the chairman and the commissioners. We are also proposing that we amend the IEBC Act to provide for an acceptable selection process. Amend either Article 88 or 250 to provide for an independent body to appoint the chairman and the commissioners. The selection process should involve all major stakeholders and not only or mainly the political parties. Amend the IEBC Act to provide for the vetting of the IEBC Secretariat. The Secretariat staff, and we're also requesting that we amend the IEBC Act to provide that the field staff shall be hired on a need basis only. This will reduce the burden from the public, because they are paid even when there's nothing much to be done on the ground. On the specific issues of boundary delimitation, these are our proposals. Amend Article 6 of the Constitution to correct the disparity and provide for a formula for delimitation of counties. Amend Article 89 to provide for a more just formula in the delimitation of counties and the wards. The constituencies and the wards. Specific issues on audit of the 2022 presidential elections. These are our proposals. Amend Article 88 4H to remove the evaluation function from the IEBC. When you evaluate yourself, most of the time you will not be able to give proper reports. Amend Article 88 to provide for an independent audit within 1 year after the elections. On the issue of the National Government Constituency Development Funds, the National Government Affirmative Action Funds, and the Senate Oversight Fund, we propose the following. We do not in any way oppose the entrenchment of the funds in our Constitution. We are, however, opposed to the fact that there is no separation of powers when it comes to checks and balances, and the legislators should not be allowed or be involved in the executive duties. We also request that we amend the respective Funds Act to provide that the funds shall be managed by the executive branch of the counties or the local national government administration. And we are requesting that the Senate Oversight Fund that is in the process of being introduced should be stopped. Finally, on the office of the leader of the official opposition, we propose the following. Amend the Constitution to provide for the office of the leader of the opposition. We are, however, not very comfortable with the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary because the title is very confusing, and we propose that we retain the provisions in Article 152, and therefore we should not have the post in the of the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary. Those are our submissions. I will wind up with preventing interference with political parties. The proposal is to amend Section 14A, B, and C of the Political Parties Act to provide that a by-election must be held where a member defects. Thank you very much to the honorable panel. I'll hand over to Father.
Chair. I have got a very small question to you.
Wandai and then Omar.
Very, very small question.
Yeah.
you have suggested that we do away or we amend Article 88(4)(h)
Yes.
to remove the task of evaluation of elections from the IEBC and take it elsewhere.
Yes.
I realize the fact that even as currently crafted, that section doesn't actually give that task to IEBC. It simply requires the IEBC to facilitate that evaluation. Just try to ponder around that. 2, are you in any way associated with the body going by the name Interreligious Council of Kenya, which is currently represented in the IEBC selection panel by 2 representatives? And if you are, do you feel adequately represented by those 2 persons? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mine will be very brief on the housing levy. The housing that is being built by government is intended for the most vulnerable in society. If you look at the criteria for the awarding of those housing, they are incomes of people who naturally will not access credit from a conventional bank. 1, there is a KMRC, Kenya Mortgage Refinance Corporation, that is intended to give affordable credit to will-be house buyers. Will-be house buyers. Would-be house buyers. And that mortgage, affordable mortgage, is to be at the cost of 5 to 6%. Yes, at the cost of 5 to 6%. Yeah, 5 to 6%. So that takes care of the demand side. The housing levy is supposed to encourage developers. That thing you're talking about, creating the enabling environment. If developers don't have somebody who can take the market risk through the supply side, what proposals do you have that can amend and remove the housing levy and still encourage developers to produce housing at affordability at a margin of about 12 to 15?